I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders that make it grow. Thank you for this week's sponsor. We have a new spokesperson at Coleman Report. I think you will enjoy this.
People everywhere love Girl Scout cookies. At the beach, at the mountains, in the forest, in the desert, and even Antarctica. Hello, Mr. Penguin. If you want one, just tell us how many you want and which ones do you want. So buy my cookies, please. Thank you for supporting Girl Scouts. Bye!
You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
Our first story this week is about the PARRiS Score. SBA scores all SBA 7A lenders. You should know your institution's score. C-suite managers need to understand it and manage to lower the score. And we have the question from Courtney. Thank you, Courtney. Excellent question. Lance, what is the average PARRiS score for an institution? And I know we've said it before, but Lance, if I know there's someone out there who doesn't know what we're talking about, how do you find your PARRiS score? Tell
well,
me.
the PARRiS score can be accessed a number of ways, but one of the easiest ways is through SBA One. And when you get into SBA One, if you look at the top right-hand corner, it'll have your bank's PARRiS score there. You can click on that, and it's outstanding because not only can you see the score, you can look at each of the areas of the PARRiS score. There's drop-downs. For instance, high origination loans are one of the categories of the PARRiS score. And you can click on a blue link and see all of the loans that SBA considers to be high-risk originations. And it's a great management tool for lenders to help understand what kind of loans you want to pursue as an SBA participant lender. But the PARRiS score, the easiest way to access it, again, is through SBA One. Up in your right-hand corner, you'll see the score. You click on that, and you can drop down and dive into your SBA lending portfolio and find out what impacts it. Now, Courtney asked a great question because a lot of people will get in SBA One, see the score, and say, what does that mean? Well, and what is a good score? And just as a point of reference, a good PARRiS score is anything at 35 or below. I think SBA will look at you and say you're doing a great job as an SBA lender. Anything below 30, if you've got a 28, a 27, that's exceptional. Bob, Bob knows one of my proudest points in my life was I was working at a bank whose PARRiS score, and I'm not going to give the number, was X.
Or the bank.
And over a one-year period of time, through managing the portfolio by knowing what impacts the PARRiS score, I dropped it 12 points.
Yeah. From
a PARRiS score that would be considered above average to an excellent PARRiS score. So, I mean, it's a great management tool. Again, 35 is good, 30 is excellent. And I went in and looked just to give a point of reference. The average PARRiS score for banks, SBA lending institutions across the country is just slightly over 38. So if you're at 38 or 39, you're average. If you're above that, depends on how far above. But if you're at a 39 or 40, don't start running around getting excited about it. But if you're at a 50. There needs to be some management of that portfolio.
Right, but it can be managed. They update this every 3 months. And as someone has said in the industry, they were able to reduce their score by 12 points simply by managing this process. In continuing with the conversation about the PARRiS score, in last week's webinar, Lance Sexton talked about the high-risk origination score. The takeaway on this is you can go in and identify every loan that SBA believes is a higher risk than the rest of your portfolio. Needed management tool.
High-risk origination is one of the most interesting areas of the PARRiS score because, and I think high-risk origination is particularly important for delegated lenders who are involved in express and PLP lending. It's a complicated measurement that SBA uses that looks at things like the industry that they're in, the 10-year default rate in that industry, the charge-off rate in that industry, the life cycle stage that the business is in, but it looks at a variety. It'll look at individual credit scores. It'll look at the business credit score. It looks at a variety of measurements to make an assessment if SBA thinks that the loan is high risk. Now, I wish I had everybody on SBA One and you could pull up your PARRiS Score and click on the high risk origination link. If anybody has no loans in that category, that's a miracle. The nature of SBA lending, every bank that I've ever worked at, I had to sit down with the board of directors and explain it's a riskier type of lending, but the SBA guarantee helps to mitigate it. So you're going to make some loans that'll show up on this list. But I think what's important is understanding why a loan is on this list and using it as a management tool for working with your loan officers on what types of SBA loans we're looking for.
In last week office hours, Lance Sexton and I did a poll. How many of you process your 7A loans via SBA One and how many via ETRAN? Listen to the conversation.
The number of people who are actually using it for loan submission is still, and these poll results certainly prove that out. Still, there are more people submitting using ETRAN versus SBA One. And the one thing I want to share with all of our participant lenders, both ways are correct. There's not a right or wrong way. But from my time at the SBA, when SBA One does introduce a platform like SBA One, it will eventually become the required way to submit loans to SBA. In fact, Bob, we remember just last fall, they said if you're a delegated lender, you would have to submit your loans using SBA One, and then they backed away from it. I do see that coming again. And I think the next time we see them say delegated lenders must use SBA One, I think this is the one that's going to stick. So I just want to encourage you, if you have SBA One and you're submitting loans to SBA or you're processing PLP and express loans as delegated lender, it's time to jump on board and start using SBA One.
I agree with you, Lance, 100%. The other reason to do it, and it's not going to be a benefit today, but when they implement the servicing and liquidation modules, it's going to be seamless. You're not going to have to dig through your files. You know what you have. It's all up on SBA's cloud. That will be worth the price of admission.
And for those people who work in origination and closing, one of the great things, quite often they're asked to review files or to put together folders of information from an SBA loan. Once a bank fully embraces SBA One and uses it, guess what? All of those documents are going to be in SBA One. You're going to be able to just drag and drop.
Lance used to work for the agency. You talk to the people there I talked to. The people that heard and understands. Asking for stuff 5 times is not efficient. They understand the limitations on that, so they definitely want to streamline this process. Vasu Srinivasan is the recipient of the SBA Secondary Market Hall of Fame Award this year. For those of you who know Vasu, he's a great gentleman and a great spokesperson for our industry. Listen to a few of his remarks when he accepted the award.
I think we had a very interesting conversation this morning about the state of the secondary market, and I wanted to really add to what John Wade was asking. His question was that the interest rates have been going up, and he did not expect the premiums to go up. That was really his comment. And I was sitting and listening to his conversation, and I thought to myself as to what could be causing that. And I have a hypothesis. And the hypothesis is that the impact of the rate increases have been in many ways negated by 2 factors. One is a weak dollar, and the second thing is factors in the economic environment that are keeping the yields low at the long end of the bond. you know. And there are two themes that have dominated the secondary market in the last year. One is, of course, you know, the 7A and all the issues with respect to, you know, distributions and prepayments going up recently. And the second is really the elephant in the room, which is the flattening of the yield curve.
Thank you for joining us today for the Coleman Report Update and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.